Knock it out.
Hello, welcome to the NXT 2.0 post show. We're a little later than usual. Patrick had something come up. No worries, man. Glad to have you here.
Hey, better
Last
late
night,
than never, right?
right? Last night was a special edition of NXT with the Great American Bash Extravaganza. Well, if you can call it that, I just don't really know what else to call it. Um, how you doing, Patrick?
Dude, everything at Throwback HQ is doing good. Baby's on ready. Little one's eating. Rocking the new Red Sox hat. Why not? It's the 4th of July past weekend, and
Oh,
might as well just have some
the only
fun,
thing uglier than the Boston Red Sox logo was MLB's Fourth of July hats this year. All of them look tacky.
Hey, I like this one, and my girl got it for me, and I told her I liked it, but I like the All Star hat limited editions ones too.
Yeah, the All
Um,
Star ones are nice.
but I
I'm
mean,
from
a lot
Tampa.
of
I
things.
don't like Boston.
Well, I know you're from Tampa. I mean, come on, dude. You, you come up from a buzzsaw around here. I mean, and you get your butt smacked from the series recently. So, I mean, come on now.
Hey man, I write for a Rays beat. That's my other job.
Hey, when I go down there, we can go to a game then.
Let's go. I'll be living right back in the city soon. Okay, so NXT Great American Bash opened with the tag championship attraction that everybody was looking forward to. Toxic Attraction defended their championships against Roxy, Roxanne Perez, still getting a little used to that, and Cora Jade. I have a lot to say about this match, primarily the result. What were your thoughts on what you were able to gather?
I I I knew some shenanigans were afoot just because of the way were going down with Roxy and Cara Jade, where they're just like now a tag team all of a sudden. I I've been reading points recently on Twitter and also in certain sites stating that a lot of people think that they're going to pull the trigger with Mandy. So it made sense to move, Gigi Dolan and JC
JC Jane.
Jane up there too. So I mean, you need a faction on the main roster on the women's side. There really isn't. I mean, the closest thing is the Judgment Day with
You need
Rhea in
you,
it, but you need a hard like it
I'm
has to go
sorry.
back to the way it was with the beginning of the Divas Revolution, where you
You
had
need teams
three
for
different
the tag
factions.
tournament
So
that's not existent.
pretty much, yeah. So I mean, it it's just you need to fit all these in together and stuff. I mean, in right now, if they had to pull the trigger on it, you had three, pretty good talent to go up to one of the main rosters. I would rather see them up on SmackDown with Liv than anything. So it'd be fun to watch. But the result on this, it was kind of this show overall, except for the main event. Well, including the main event and somewhat was very predictable on how some of these things was going to go. And with the end result on this, it's already going to tell you what's going to happen next for the following week that they announced.
So, I put out a tweet last night while the show was airing. It was actually the only tweet I did about the show. Oops. And the Body Sam main account picked it up, and the Body Sam account said, "At the Jameis, follow me by the way. That's a cheap plug. Has a lot to say on Toxic Attraction and NXT. Um, that he would say on the show." And my tweet, I'm just gonna read it, and then I'll dive into more detail. I'm hoping that this means Mandy drops the main championship soon and Toxic Attraction moves to Raw. Raw could use another top heel to go against Bianca. The main roster needs more women's teams, and they're more of a main roster kind of act anyway. One common conception on this show is that we often felt like NXT 2.0 was more of a derivative of the main roster as opposed to what NXT had become before. And uh, kind of exemplified by that was Toxic Attraction. They accentuate everything that is a Bruce Pritchard type creation. And for me, that doesn't fit the NXT appeal. Mandy's pretty much done everything as we've discussed ad nauseum on the show. that she can do in NXT. She's reached her ceiling. It's time for her to move back up. And the women's roster don't have tag champions right now. We've been waiting for a month, quite literally, on this tournament to see the field, and they've not announced anything because they have no teams, no depth to provide a women's tag championship with. And on Raw, so you can move Toxic Attraction. You have Jane and Prisha Kelly do the tag picture, make them the champions. And then on Raw, SmackDown has enough top heels. They have Rousey, they have Charlotte ready whenever. You could move Natalia into a program with Liv. They kind of hinted at that on that this past Monday. Whereas Raw, you don't want to revisit Becky Lynch yet. I like the story they're telling of her losing all of her big matches. Sort of Rocky 3 redemption arc. But you don't have anybody else other than Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley's hurt right now. You can't keep running Natalia, Bianca Belair. Putting Mandy Rose up there gives a formidable challenger immediately for Bianca Belair. Even if it's not the best match, Raw needs that depth to me a lot more than SmackDown does.
I can put my 2 cents into this, but keep going.
No, go ahead.
Hello, ding dong. We're forgetting about Bayley here.
I'm not forgetting about anybody. I love Bayley. I'm a huge Bayley fan.
Bayley is on her way back.
She's been ready for a while, and they've not put her anywhere. So
I wouldn't be surprised. SummerSlam at the end of the month, they do the same shenanigans WWE does all the goddamn time, and we sing ding dong, hello, and there's Bianca standing out there. If they're going to keep doing this
versus Belair,
if they're going to keep doing this, the only other reasonable person
that needs the women's death more, especially from a villain standpoint.
Yeah, and that's what Bayley could bring to you. She could be a top tier right off the bat and stuff like that.
What I was saying.
And the thing is that I think if I was Hunter, I would ask her to come to NXT and do a one-off run, and have her take the belt off Mandy so Mandy can run into Sunset, and then you could have Roxy versus Bayley and have that match to transition Roxy, and then you have Bayley back up on Raw. It would make a perfect sense because there's a flow. It's like Bayley saying Roxanne Perez is the next person that she believes is going to be, carrying the NXT mantle for a while, and then you have Mandy up on the main roster doing her stuff. But don't forget about this. There is an unsettled feud on the main roster between Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. Because when everything during the pandemic, when the shit hit the fan, they didn't even finish it out. She got out into...
They had the loser leaves town match to write Sonya Deville off of television during that time. I don't think you need to revisit it. Sonya's already gotten her comeuppance. You've already reestablished Mandy as a much bigger heel, and you're not going to turn either one of them face. I don't think there's a need to revisit that. Maybe down the road, not right away. Especially.
But my point is that with WWE, they tend to rerun everything at certain points, and unless even they think it was good during a pandemic where there's no audience, they'll run it back. I mean, they ran back Sheamus and McIntyre like once or twice already.
There's a story there, and that match rules every time.
Yeah, but I'm saying like there's still a match there where Sonya could be like, "We're not set because I had to leave, and I'm still here."
He had to leave
you could run it back
because Mandy beat her. That was the rules of the match. She already got her comeuppance. That story had its conclusion, even if the conclusion was a little rushed. I think Mandy to Raw is the way to go because it gives Raw the depth they need. Especially if I've seen rumors that Bayley's going to SmackDown anyway, which I don't personally.
But the question is, once Ronda goes away for a while, who do you have on that as depth on the SmackDown side? You don't.
Well, you have by the time Ronda goes away, you'll have Charlotte back.
Yeah.
If they move Bayley there. Liv Morgan's the top face. She's going to be for a while. They've kind of hinted the Liv Morgan Bayley animosity on Twitter recently. So maybe that's how they position a Bailey return. That's where I would put Mandy. But we do
And
have
and this
not
is why we're passionate about all these things.
not to spend too much time on this. We have new women's tag team champions, Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade.
How do you think this is going to play out with that contract though that Roxanne Perez has with Mandy? Like that
I would have
one
Roxanne Perez beat her.
that kind of sets up the whole thing with I'm going to use them as because we were just talking about Bailey and Sasha where they had all 4 belts and the tag belts. I mean, how are you going to
It's a
take
vintage
the tag belts
WWE
off of
trope.
that?
It's a vintage WWE trope. The tag partner's jealous that the partner's getting a lot more success. They drop the titles when Elena Black, Cora Jade leaves at ringside, and then after Cora Jade leaves her out to dry, Cora Jade goes for the title. They've done that. Tale as old as time for WWE.
Oh, great. He quoted Disney. Thank you. At least here with us on the NXT show, you'll get a little laughter from time to time.
The next match was Wesley versus Trick Williams. Trick Williams defeated Wesley. Not much to talk home about.
It was a 4-minute match, basically, 4 or
This
5 minute
got
match.
rehashed in the main event when Wesley, or not the main event, the co-main event when Wesley made his presence felt during the North American Championship match, which we'll get to later. Don't really have much to say there.
Yeah, it's not really much. I mean, when they made this match, it was almost like the match was just thrown in there just to fill time and stuff like that. You already
You
knew
know
when
what
you were
else felt
watching
thrown
some of
in
this.
there? Windy Chu and Tiffany Stratton.
Oh, they must have something against the Chew because of the fact
Don't
that
sleep on Windy Chu.
no, I'm saying like
I'm sorry, that was a bad joke.
when when with the outcome of this match, it literally made me think like, really, you're going to give the fan favorite and put them down and to eat the pin. It's like if you're really going to build somebody, wouldn't you, because Chu to me is already established. She with everything she's done so far. Why are you going to let her eat it and get Stratton the pin? It's like, okay, well, you have higher faith than Wendy when Wendy's the one who's carrying mostly the face, some of the face load on the NXT side.
Windy Chu's a one-dimensional character. You had to establish her so the wins mean something. But you can tell Tiffany Stratton has everything WWE looks for in a women's wrestler. Stereotypical, but that's just how it is. She's very athletic. There are times, especially in this match, you could tell she's really green. But that's what NXT's there for. People forget that it's also developmental often. So
I guess that's because I'm just passionate about the brand, and I have a question later on. I'll ask you before we go off the air. So
next, Apollo Crews cut a promo. The was interrupted by Fabian Eichner. What's his name again? Vinci something?
Giovanni Da Vinci or
Giovanni Da Vinci. Okay, so it was interrupted by Giovanni Da Vinci. Sorry, some of these names are just going to take me a little bit to shake off. So they probably set up a feud there. That's going to be a nice little athletic display whenever it happens to give Giovanni Da Vinci a nice win to establish him. Not much to talk home about there. I like that.
It's going to be a good match, though, just because of the fact that
They're
you
both
got two
extremely
really
athletic.
good. It's going to be really physical and really fun to watch.
The next match on the show, which I said we'd get to, Carmelo Hayes defeated Grayson Waller. For me, this match was awkward at times. I'm a big Carmelo Hayes proponent. I know you are too. I think the A champion has a lot of potential to be the top guy of the future, but Waller looks awkward at times. But Hayes
He's
really
not as
brought it.
he's as somebody in with this match, right, and especially just as a character, Grayson Waller is confident at most part in some spots and not confident as much. He is, like we were talking about, stereotypical WWE characters.
He's
He is
unsure of himself.
this.
Like
Yeah, he's not.
he feels like he's playing Grayson Waller. He doesn't feel like he's Grayson Waller. And if you want the audience to believe in you, you have to believe in yourself and the character you're portraying on television.
He has that confidence and swagger, but the thing is that a viewer, and like I tell about here, and I do on Wicked Crazy Pinfalls, it's all about the casual viewer for the most part, because if AEW has the certain demographic that they're carrying, they're going with NXT, Raw and stuff, the younger, where they grow into it. If my son that was like 5, 6 years old and saw Grayson Waller on TV, he just turned around and walked away. That would say a lot.
There, I hate doing comparisons, and I don't think it's an A to A apples to apples comparison, because one is so much better than Grayson Waller in every way. It's not funny, but one is, you mentioned AEW guys grow into it. The biggest example of that in pro wrestling in the last 5 years, when he wrestled Chris Jericho for the championship, Adam Page felt kind of how Grayson Waller feels now, but there's nobody who feels more authentic in 2022 than Adam Page.
No, I understand that. It's a process, but I'm saying, like, if I had my son right now at the age that's appropriate to watch this, which is about maybe 4 or 5, like I did, and he looked up at me and looked at Waller and he turned around, a 4 or 5 year old, even though they're a child, they look up and they have no interest in, is kind of telling, because that same reaction is going to happen in 3 years, 4 years, because that's their audience they want to cater. It's a very young audience to get it up.
There were certain things I liked about this match. I made note in my notes app on my phone. I loved how Carmelo Hayes ducked the shots during the exchange instead of staying there and taking them. I love that the flying clothesline the springboard clothesline he hit after Waller Irish whipped him. Smooth. That was a nice little reprieve from a trophy exchange. Overall, again, not much to talk home about. The finish looked really good with the kind of a modified code breaker into the diving leg lariat thing.
It's kind of, well, let's call it what it is. It's like the Cena. It's kind of like the Cena move, the leg drop off the top with the head over, but
his legs flail a little more, and he only connects with one heel.
Yeah, pretty much. It literally is just an airborne leg drop.
It's essentially a elevated scissors kick.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
I think that move looks sick. I'm not criticizing the move. I thought the finish looked really
visually
good.
It's gore. If you're listening to us and talking about it, it's kind of hard to critique verbally, because it's a visual move. You're watching this and you're like, how can somebody play that off and that high and make that impact?
Maybe we should do a leg drop episode on Excellently Executed. I don't know if you watched that, but the first episode was really well received. Corey Brennan, the wrestling news, our main wrestling news guy, and I take clips of a different move, and then we break down how each wrestler makes it their own, delivers it, takes it, puts it into sequences. The first episode was on dropkicks. Maybe episode 4, because we already have 2 and 3 planned, will be on leg drops, and that'll be included. We'll see.
Hey, look at him. He's got everything up ahead.
Yeah, I slow down footage too. Like, I put footage onto the screen and I just slow it down. I rewind, fast forward, so we can break down certain parts of the move too. It's really cool. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out on Body Slam's YouTube channel. The next match, the Creed brothers retain the championships against Diamond Mine. Really solid match. It was always going to be solid and physical with the guys involved. Roddy Strong does not have bad or cheap matches. and the Creed brothers are really coming into their own. Not much to talk about here. Kind of predictable. Julius hit Kemp with a slam and slid it and did a sliding clothesline for the win, as expected.
A lot of these matches, except for that first match, was kind of predictable how the outcome was. I think after everything that's happened with Strong off the show, I think he's kind of slowly accepting like a leadership role more so with Grimes, and you see him trying to do these things with these guys and trying to get them more eyes. And the Creeds right now are like the top tag team in NXT. And then other than the couple on the main roster, maybe 3 or 4 of them, they're actually the 5th in the company, I think, because of how physical they are, how talented they are. There's a lot of upswing on them. So having Roddy in a match with them, it shows a lot of faith that, the brass that run NXT have in Roddy to actually put them even further into the mix.
Yeah. Hold on. Never mind. That's not high quality. I'm not gonna do what I was about to do. I was about to pull up footage of the leg lariat and break it down, and I'm like, probably should just prepare to do that next week when I can actually get footage. Not at the last
Hey,
second.
we always got time to do special stuff too. So, like I said, check everything out on Body Slam. You never know what you'll find.
Oh, I've got a lot of good stuff coming. Be sure to check out that episode of the first Excellently Executed podcast. And then the main event, Braun Breaker, of course he retained the championship. Still doesn't feel like he's doing anything worthwhile or has anything
They
worthwhile coming up.
the
Retained.
hype, the hype for this match for me should have happened without the title when at a few months before when Braun was around, because they went straight to Champa, War Games, all that stuff. I think now, even though it's Grimes, I think, and a lot of people are hoping that they go a second round because how good this match was.
I
It
don't.
was.
There were.
I'm
Braun
talking about
Breaker is
is.
good in a lot of ways. Braun Breaker, much like his father and his uncle, is very explosive. He brings a
I'm
lot to the table. He pops off the screen. But there were a lot of. I didn't enjoy this match as much as I thought I was going to, because you could tell where Braun's hiccups were. There was a really cool running headlock that they were trying to do, but Braun lets it go so that he can keep his balance. And then Grimes has to let him reapply the headlock, and it comes across not good on television.
No, but I'm saying for this match on NXT, right, compared to like other higher profile matches,
Fair.
for this show, for being not a takeover type match, it's a specialty show. This had a good amount of hype. Now, if this was at a takeover and it had a longer build, like the original Black and Gold and stuff, this would have had more time to have more depth into it and more seasoning. But it only had like a month, so you only get a flavor. So a lot of people, even on Twitter, are thinking that if they do this again, let it stew out a little bit and go into Survivor Series weekend, and for a takeover for that magnitude, for the last possible takeover before the special show they do in December, to let it stew out. Now, there's a problem with that. It's in Boston, Survivor Series.
Ugh, Boston.
If they pull this out, and
The only thing
even
bloodier
the
than I
one
hate for
match,
Boston is Kurt Schilling's sock.
I'm gonna say this much. I sent a question out for Fightful in their show this afternoon. Is kind of like just out of curiosity. And Sean I don't quote me on this. This is just what I heard after when I sent that is that, and I believe he said this. This is just me saying what I heard. It's not his. It's not real or anything. I can't guarantee that. You'd have to watch the show.
Can't verify the report.
Yeah, it's not a report. It's just his thing on his show that he does. And this is not me covering from Body Slam. This is just me saying after I sent that question in and stuff. And he basically stated that the only match that anybody probably wants to see now is Hayes and Braun. And that
I
makes
agree.
perfect sense.
And we've
But
discussed this a lot on the show, you specifically.
yeah, and I still
issue with
think that
Braun
they do
Breaker
that at
winning.
Summer. I
Oh, I'm
still think
sorry.
they do it in Boston. I think they break their cardinal rule of not winning a championship in there because there's so much history. And if you're going to bring Breaker up after Survivor Series and keep him off TV into the Rumble as an entry in the Rumble, that would make sense because then you have Hayes going into WrestleMania weekend and he'll lose the title for NXT and then get a call up at WrestleMania. Those are two moves that gradually make sense months going down the line.
It's fair.
But it's all question if
For
they'll
me,
do it.
when Braun won the match, I was thinking to myself, who's left for Braun to wrestle? There's really nobody, and that's why I was expecting. The audience is gravitating towards and getting behind Cameron Grimes right now with this story. I thought you were telling a great story. I thought that could have been a nice feel-good moment to send Breaker up because they've already toyed with the idea of putting him on Raw anyway. But I'm fine with Carmelo Hayes being the next NXT champion and then Braun moving up.
But they're not doing it.
I just don't know how you get there.
Because guess what happened on .com, people? Go look it. Jordan Devlin shows up at the end of the show on .com.
That doesn't mean Jordan Devlin or JD McDonough is going to be his name going forward. Is going to beat Braun Breaker. It means that's his next challenger, which I'm fine with. It's something different. It's something fresh. And it's somebody who's established from the other brand coming over. I don't mind that. I don't think Jordan Devlin wins.
I don't think he wins either. Out of everybody that I think could go against Breaker and keep up the pace, other than Grimes and Hayes, he's on the shelf. Let's be honest. Nathan Frazier is a name that people are sleeping on, and if he gets a shot at it,
a little more. But Nathan Frazier's weird because I remember everybody being so hyped for him during his AEW mini dark run that they couldn't pay him for because of visa issues. And then now everybody's like, who's this Nathan Frazier kid? And it's kind of like the same guy.
No, but the thing is though, don't sleep on him because if you give him just enough time, let's say a year from now, and they give him a shot at it,
I think a year from now
he could be the NXT champion. But I think what they'll do in between that year span is that they'll put him in against Hayes to get the North American title. Because
I like that.
Because what they did also in the show in the opening, they set up one match. And Duke Cousin hasn't been on TV, and Sangha, they're probably going to put that together as a match at some point in the next few weeks. We're going to probably end up seeing that. So I honestly think that Frazier is the only other person that stands out to take the Hayes' title because you're keeping focus on Grimes, on Braun as an idea, plus, JD in the mix and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do a show. I mean, SummerSlam's in about at the end of the month. They might do a takeover just to throw it in there to give them a month and, you go from there. But we'll see. It all depends, really.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Overall, the show was fun, but it didn't feel like a special edition. Patrick, where can we find you? Throwback. Throw it back to you.
Tomorrow will be at Wicked Crazy Pinfalls, youtube.com/throwback27 on the Twitch. Come join us on the Twitch so we can get there. We need 5 people constantly talking in that chat just so we can get the affiliate numbers, and then we keep doing that and stuff. You know, what you guys say matters, and that helps. And also here on Body Slam, NXT post show, it's kind of like a review today. It's more relaxed and everything. And it just hang out here with us and just, you know, talk about all the things that we love about to do, which is wrestling. Support
I
Body
like
Slam.
hanging out here every week.
Support. I can't point which way, but I don't know which camera angle it is.
Other
Yeah,
way.
you know what I mean. Support this guy here, Cass, everybody. You know, the Roundtable podcast and everything else. Hell, Twitter right there and Throwback 978. Do what you can. Bodyslam.net is one of the places to be and to keep the coverage alive. Hell, I'm going to Ring of Honor. I'm buying tickets for it, and I'm scared as crap because I
That's
haven't
right.
had a show
And
in a long time.
I'll be doing the post show for that show. I believe I'll be doing it with Kylie Fuller, who is our co-host for the Code of Honor podcast that airs every Monday at 3. You don't want to miss that. This week they'll have new overlays reflecting the new logo.
So
I
what I'm going to be
so I know
doing,
that info.
so what I'll plan to do is that on my way home, I'll pop in and give you my point as somebody who watched it if I'm not covering it for Body Slam.
I'm cool with that.
It's going to be fun. I'm bringing my family with me. It's going to be the first time I've gone to any event with my girlfriend, any event with the kids. It's going to be a blast. Plus, it's my first live wrestling show that I didn't have to work for a show because I worked at the arena that it's at years ago, but an actual show where I can sit down and enjoy since the old Boston Garden was around.
Oh, I would have loved to have gone to that venue. One of my favorite things, I'm an insomniac. One of the things I've done since I was like 6 was put on old tapes, a network now, but old tapes of old Boston Garden shows.
Yeah, it was something because literally a friend
and
of mine
you knew what shows are Boston Garden because they had the wooden steps on the outside of the ring.
Also,
they had
the other thing is
the part in the crowd on the hard cam side.
And on top of that, it felt like you were over on top of them, and that's the feeling I miss because there's, as much as we're talking about NXT and stuff, if an NXT show was at that place, there would be no other feeling. There is no other feeling than being at that was like the old Garden where you could actually in Boston, where you actually hear. You can actually hear the bell ring. You can actually hear them talking. Yeah, you could literally hear them talking, and now everything is so spaced out and stuff. Like, I love that feeling, and the Songus Center has that type of style feeling. So I can't wait to go to my first show since I was a kid. I can't wait to do anything, and if I get the chance to cover for Body Slam, I will do my best to make everybody proud. And this is actually would be my first time covering anything for any show.
We appreciate that. You can find me on Twitter at the Jameus. You can find me on YouTube. I'm the editor at Body Slam. I edit all of our news stuff. I occasionally write news. I'm producing podcasts. I just produced a brand new podcast today that airs Friday with Corey Brennan and Rami Hanna, where they break down UFC every week. Be sure to follow our new MMA Twitter at BodySlamNet MMA. Follow our Body Slam Twitter at BodySlamNet. Follow, like, subscribe on our YouTube channel, of course. You can help provide for content creators like me with Slam Chats, Pro Wrestling Tees. For me, I host the Excellently Executed podcast. First episode aired just a couple weeks ago. Next episode is on Elbow Drop, so that should be fun. Hot take: Perry Saturn has the best elbow drop of all time. Sorry, Randy Savage fans. Although I'm the biggest Randy Savage fan you'll meet. So
I'd say Bailey, like early NXT Bailey kind of.
Female elbow drop is Kyrie Sane, but
oh yeah, that the insane elbows. There's nothing against that.
I do a lot of different stuff. Produce, host podcast. You can catch me here every week.
Hell,
You
I'm
can get.
trying to convince him to come to Wicked Crazy Pinfalls on a Thursday. You know how hard that is to get Body Slam talent to come over? So get them on that Twitter and tell them to come on.
I'm just confused as to what Wicked Crazy Pinfall is. Anyway, I'll message
It's
your
just a
Wicked
weekly
Pinfall.
wrestling
I'll
show
message
and
your
live
Wicked
show.
Pinfall Facebook page later. I have Messenger.
What it is basically is the premise of the show. We just talk about
We
anything.
don't
It's
have
just
time.
no,
I'll
but
talk to
we
you
talk about
after.
everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I believe if I throw it back to Patrick, I'm going to say that every week, throwing it back to Throwback. He has our usual outro.
Do a good deed, pay it forward, because you never know in life when something changes and someone passes. So remember that with the last words you say and tell them you love them. Every time you do a positive thing, it comes back to you. Again, do a good deed, pay it forward.
Yes, sir. That's sound advice.